Hi everyone, this is Ryan with Mama on Mission, and today I'm joining in a very special collaboration. It is hosted by Ingrid over at the Ingrid Chronicles, formerly known as Mommy and Mia's Homeschool Chronicles. And this is a collab all about how to homeschool in a specific state. So obviously, this is going to be filled with women from multiple different states, and we all have done our research and are just giving you a condensed version of how you homeschool and in our specific state. So that being said, there will not be a playlist for this, but instead in my description box down below, I will list out each of the individual channels and what state they will be covering, so that if you are looking for a specific state, you can just go down there and find that state and figure out the information you need. But please check out any of those that you would like to see, or if you're just like me and I'm kind of nerdy about this and just really like to see what the rules are in other states, you can watch all of them if you want. But definitely check out that list and check out Ingrid's new channel, the Ingrid Chronicles. So, if you don't know, I live in Missouri, so this is how we homeschool legally in Missouri. And if you're anything like I was, and you're just now starting out, the biggest question you have is, how do I do this legally and not get in trouble? I knew very little about homeschooling before I decided to do it, because my husband really wanted me to do it, and so I had not even really looked into it. And I know a lot of people are nervous about the academic side of it. I wasn't so much worried about that because my kids were so young when I started. I was more just concerned with, how do I do this and not get in trouble? And lucky for me, Missouri is a super easy homeschool state. There are 4 levels of homeschool friendliness. There is little to no regulation, there is mild regulation, there is moderate regulation, and then there is high regulation. And Missouri falls into the no regulation zone. Now, that does not mean there's no rules. That just simply means that no one tells us what to teach or how to teach it. We just kind of do what we feel we need to do, and then if there's a problem, then we move from there. But basically, we're pretty much free to teach how we want and what we want, within certain limits. So the first thing I would say is the most important. If your child is already enrolled in public or private school or has been previously enrolled, you have to withdraw them. You cannot just stop taking them. You can definitely be flagged for truancy there and then have to deal with a lot of those issues. So if your child is already in school or formerly was in school, you are supposed to write a withdrawal letter. And if you log on to HSLDA, you can find like a sample letter that tells you kind of what you need to say to withdraw them. And it is highly recommended that you send that via certified mail. And that you also ask for a return receipt, because you want to log any and all correspondence that you have. And then any correspondence you have between the school and yourself, you need to keep for your records in case something goes wrong later. And then the second thing I would like to cover is compulsory attendance. So in Missouri, you are required to go to kindergarten, first grade, and so on and so forth. However, if you are homeschooled, you do not have to start logging hours or tracking their schooling until they are 7 when the school year starts. So they typically consider the start of term as July 1st. And you can alter that a little bit, but that's kind of the general rule of thumb, is to just do July 1st for your cutoff. So if they are going into first grade and they're already 7 on July 1st, you need to start recording their hours and all of that. If they are not 7 yet, then you don't need to worry about it, unless you have already enrolled them in a public school and have withdrawn them. If they've already been on record as having been in a public school or even a private school, you need to start record keeping as soon as you start homeschooling, just because they've already started on a schooling track and they need to make sure that you're staying on it, I guess. I don't really know why they do it that way, but if they've already been enrolled, just start logging right away. If not, then the school year that they are already 7 when the school year starts on July 1st is when you need to start recording. And then you need to keep doing that logging their hours and all of the things that I'm going to go into later, until their 17th birthday at least. However, it is a really good idea to keep keeping those records until they've completely graduated. So technically, once they're 17, you no longer have to report on them, or no longer have to record your hours and such. But typically, for college, for military entry, sometimes even for your license, you need to have record of them going to school. So it's good. It's a really good idea just to keep the records until they graduate, which is typically when they're 18. But by law, you technically don't have to after 17. So now here's where we get down to the nitty gritty. When I say logging and recording, what exactly does that mean? By Missouri homeschool law, you have to log 1,000 hours per term. And like I said, typically term is July 1st through June 30th. So that includes anything and everything you do during the summer or the school year. Now, out of those 1,000 hours, 600 of them must be core hours. Core subjects are reading, math, social studies, language arts, and science. So if they fall under any of those get logged under core hours. Out of those 600 hours, of course, you can have more than 600 hours. You could have all 1,000 hours on core subjects if you wanted. But at least 400 of the 600 needed hours for core subjects have to be done at home. So if you have a co-op that you do science at, or that you send your kid there for math or whatever, those do not count toward the 400 at-home hours. They count toward the 600 core hours, but not toward the 400 at-home hours. And remember, the 400 is part of the 600. So for a while, I was confused on that, but finally got that figured out. So then the remaining 400 that are not core hours would be your extra things like Bible, foreign language, any stuff kind of like that that's not really in that core section. And of course, you can go over the 1,000 hours. That's just the minimum you have to do. And then for records, you have to have a plan book or some sort of log of everything that you've taught. And it's really easy if you're already logging hours. That's kind of already done for you, if that makes sense. So you have to, how I do it is I have my planner and I write down our lesson plans, and then I just write next to it how long it took us to complete that. And then I have a spreadsheet on my computer that I have gotten from HSLDA where you log in how many hours of each subject you did, and it keeps the running tally for you, which is really nice. So at the end of the school year, I will just print that off and put that in with my records. So you have to have your hours, you have to have your plan book showing what you did. Then you have to have academic evaluations. So those can be just your regular tests, a math test, a spelling test, whatever, that just shows that they are making improvements. Or it can be standardized testing. That is not required in Missouri by any means, but if that is the route you choose to take, then that would also show that they're progressing. And then you also have to keep some samples of their work, not each and everything. There's really no regulations on what you need to keep, but just enough to show that they're actually doing what you say on paper that they're doing. Now, then at the end, there's this clause that says, or you can have other written credible evidence that are the equivalent of your plan book, your samples, and your academic evaluations. So that's so loose, I don't really know. I just try to follow the three things. As far as academic evaluations go, right now we don't do a whole lot of testing. Our math has tests in it, our spelling has tests in it, our vocabulary has tests in it. Everything else doesn't really have tests. So what I do is I just say for writing, I just save certain things that he's written, and every so often I'll just pull one and it just shows, hey, look, he's progressing. And I think that's totally acceptable. And then they also recommend that you keep at least 1 year of records for junior high and elementary school. But they say to be safe to keep 2, the past 2 years. Obviously, if you're first starting, you don't have 2 years, but to keep the last 2 years records. I so far have kept just all of mine. I'm sure I'll dwindle that down eventually. But if they are in high school, you must keep records for all 4 years, which is especially important if you plan on sending them to college, the military, whatever they plan to do after high school. This being said, in Missouri, this is all you have to do. There is no reporting. There is no testing. There is no set number of days of attendance you have to keep. Now, it is important when you're keeping your log of what you're doing to just date it so that it can be shown that, like, yeah, we didn't do all of this, in a month or whatever. But just to show that, you were consistently doing school throughout most of the year. So there's no set number of days, but you will kind of need to track how many days you do school. But there is that set amount of hours, 1,000 hours, which makes it really nice, I feel like, that we don't have certain days that we have to school. We can kind of do it whenever, as long as we're getting those hours in. And then basically, this is all just in case you're reported. None of this is turned into anyone. None of this is looked over by anyone. There's no charter schools. There's no anyone that comes to your house and looks things over. So it's really, really nice. And I'm sure there's cases where this has been taken advantage of. But I just really hope that it doesn't change, because it's really easy and really nice to be able to focus more on our schooling than on dotting our I's and crossing our T's. So that is it for Missouri. Obviously, if you ever have any more questions regarding that, the HSLDA website is the way to go. They have everything homeschool law related, especially. So I highly recommend that if you have any questions beyond what I was able to answer. And even if you don't necessarily have any more questions, just check out that website and it'll help you out a lot. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Please check out Ingrid's channel, and please look down below for other states if you're interested in the laws in other states. So I'll talk to you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye.